Thank you for setting everything up, by the way.
No
I'm
problem.
very like very illiterate with all of this stuff, but
No. Good afternoon. Hi, I'm with Jennifer.
hi.
Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I am a psychic medium. I do readings. I come in and help people with resolutions to, or give them a guidance to the resolutions of who they or where they want to go in life. I help them with their the people that have passed with them. I don't know. I just,
Well, it's also part of a healing process, right? For some.
yeah, I, I guess everybody's so different than when I talk to individuals about the process that they're going through. I think it's, um, the grieving part of it is a very strong aspect of what I do, the grieving part. But again, today was more about self building. I've had clients today about how to self build, or a couple of days ago was about relationships, how to navigate a relationship that is not working for either of them, and what's the next step for them. Um, I have helped people with business decisions that they're going through, which is kind of scary because they are making some decisions based on what it is that is being said. So I kind of get a little, I'm
Well, you're
nervous
just
about
giving one
it.
perspective. Everyone
Yeah.
needs to know all their avenues, all the information in order to make an accurate or more a better decision.
Yeah.
So they can take yours or take it or leave it and still make a decision or encompass that, and then might be a better decision on the outcome for them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which I've kind of experienced here and there too. So.
I think it's amazing when let's say giving a reading to you, that there is a part of the reading that is directly a part of my life. So I'm not only giving some information or sharing information, I'm also receiving that information also that helps with decisions I need to make also, which is great because it's a learning curve. And I always think about learning things very quickly. I want to learn it all at once, but that's not what we're
Process. It's
here
a
for.
process.
Yeah. It's not what we're here for. So, but yeah, so tell us about you and what you're doing.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just trying to do my bookkeeping stuff so I can get my taxes done. So I'm just really boogieing through that. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
As you know, I had a fire, so I'm still
Wow.
going through entries and trying to finalize stuff for 2023 and 2024. So that's where I'm working on.
That's a huge project emotionally because you had a great loss, but you're also going through and weeding through all of that information.
Was trying to decide what do I do first? Do I do this because everything seems important, and so it's like, well, how do you unravel it and get it to okay, step by step? I'm like, if I want to pursue something, to buy something or financial wise, I have to make sure my financials are up to par. So that's why I'm kind of like working on that because it went to the wayside when you have to deal with you have to purchase the house. You got to deal with the insurance company. Da da da
Yeah.
da 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 da. So all like your credit card charges and everything, which have your house payments and all that stuff on there, all gets put in. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. So
Well, again, I mean, you've also run businesses. You've also been a builder or creator of businesses, and you've also, said this is the business is running well, so now I'm going to go do this. So it's not like you're sitting still and waiting for the sun to rise and set. You're doing
no,
things.
yeah,
You're doing a lot of things. And again, when you're going through a lot of what you'd said, the fire and all this other stuff, and putting your taxes together, you're going through a lot of emotional placement of, okay, now I'm looking at this. This was really hard during that time in my life. Now you move into something else and you're going, oh, this receipt, I remember when I purchased this.
oh
And so
yeah,
it goes to that.
still going through items that were in the fire that we put aside, and cleaned up, just to go through. And every time I'll start crying because it's like it seems so
Yeah.
overwhelming, and just how much you
Yeah.
lost. And anyway, so I envy anybody who's made it through it, because it's just a hard process. And I never, ever, ever thought of it in the past, ever, until you
Yeah.
experience it. So now
Yeah.
I can relate to other people in that area.
I don't know. I think the road that you've gone through in the last few years, anyway, has been a very
That's few. My whole life.
it's like clearing out, and then all of a sudden you're moving on a path, and then it's like, wait a minute, it just things happen, and
Well, there's roadblocks that you end up on. So you wonder, is this the path I was supposed to be on, or am I getting kicked off because I'm supposed to be somewhere else? So you're always trying to figure out, where am I supposed to be going on my path? 'Cause
yeah,
I like so many things. I was just like, oh, I could do that. I could do that. So you get so like, okay, and then you're like, oh, what do I zone in more? What would make me most happy? And that's where I'm trying to find. And I don't know if anyone else is. I'm sure there's other people that are that, but it's trying to find what will make me the most happy. My relationship, my job, and what is it that because there's just so much information in this own, like computer and emails and this own tech, so that your mind's always full of so many thoughts, and it's how to clear those thoughts and zone in on what is it that Stacie really needs in her life, or you, for someone. But it's just like, and I try and help anybody else with theirs, but when it comes to me, I have a really hard time.
You're definitely the caregiver aspect of things, definitely are. But I think your passion is to make sense of chaos. I think that's who you are, because you like putting things back into a working order. Yeah. And when it doesn't happen smoothly, you're going, I should be done by this point in time. And nobody's ever that.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's for sure.
It's almost like time is moving too slow, but all the stuff that you have done has to be done at a particular time. And so you're trying to speed up the process, and it's not working well for you. Again, you operate very well on the chaos. You're really good at it, and you think very fast on your feet. And so you don't even have to give you a cup of coffee, because you're already off and running, and you're like, this is exciting, because I can't wait to delve into this project or do this. And I think people, they do what they like, but and I know that working for some are like, oh, it's a dredge, but it really isn't. It's what brings that balance back into the life. And so some of us will say, me included, well, I don't want to work, but then I can't think of not
I
getting
actually
up.
love working. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm doing something. I'm moving forward. That's how I view it as. I'm moving forward. I'm completing all, even if it's so minuscule as, oh, I'm going to reconcile this bank statement, and I'm going to get it done by, and I'm just like, okay, now I'm on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always moving forward is what I'm trying to do. And and then I'm a sponge. I like to grab for like all kinds of information wherever I go and figure it out. But, oh, okay, that's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you make mistakes. So what, and I'm like, oh, so I get down on me. I'm like, oh, that's a dumb move, Stacie. And then you fix it, so I do. I comment, oh man, that was so stupid.
What was I thinking? Where was the process?
Well, that's the thing is like if you answer the phone and you're typing something, you're like, why did I do that? Oh, because you're distracted. You get another thought going on. So anyway.
Well, that's where the muscle memory comes into play, and your body just takes over, and it just
that's
does whatever
driving.
It's doing.
That's driving. Driving down the highway. I'm like, where am I? How did I get here?
I can't remember the last 20 minutes.
So how did you get into becoming a medium anyway? I don't know if I ever asked you that.
So when I was 3, I felt that I was different. I always felt like I was, if you want to call it, being watched. But when I was 11 is when I saw actually 3 spirits in my house, and since then, because I grew up a very Catholic religion, that was
taboo.
Taboo. You're not kidding. But I felt the very core of me. You can't talk about it, and you can't react to it, and when you see things, whether it's a corner of your eye or right out front of you, you can't go, oh, this is scaring me, because then back then religion played a strong part in people's lives. So I just kind of didn't. I learned
Did you
how to
know
not
it
to open
wasn't
it.
real though?
I had no concept of that. I just knew that, like the chair sitting there, it's the same thing. It was like,
Was it
oh, somebody
scary?
walked through. The scary part is when spirit has a tendency of wanting to know or wanting you to look at them, like pay attention, because it's not just them that walks through the door and says, hi, I'm here. There are thousands of them that come in, depending on where you're at and the location or who you're talking to. So they come in. So they do things to make you notice them. So as a child and not knowing that it was okay to say, I don't want to put up with this, or this is enough of that, I I would be frightened as a child to go to bed, and I would be,
So was it like that Sixth Sense
oh, it was
movie?
so creepy sometimes. It was creepy. Like you get up in the middle of the night and you think, oh, if I put my feet down, there's going to be something grabbing me. And I know everybody feels that way, but that was that way all the way to the
Mine was
bathroom.
spiders. I
Yeah.
was afraid of spiders.
The spiders. Yeah. You look at the ceilings, you go, "Where's those spiders?" But I think in the long run, as I got older, I understood it more, and I'd go outside and you'd see things outside, and I just see it. I like, you just see it, and that's just what it is. It's not a. I don't. Do certain things scare me now? Some at times, yes. I've seen some pretty not so great things, but that's because it's human nature. Because if somebody was murdered or somebody was, a life was ended by another person, however that is, or
And do you
I,
see, like, do they play it in your mind what happened to them,
they
or?
give me sometimes the kind of first person sitting there doing that, and they give me the feeling of it. They give me the sense of what it is that how they died. Um, was it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I had a woman and she said, oh, we don't know how he died. And I go, aneurysm, because I can feel the explosion, and I can feel in my brain that there's blood in my brain just coming on the walls. So different things for, different people. It's a very, um, it's hard to explain, other than the fact that if I'm used to this environment here, but if I go to somewhere else, it's like you taking me and putting me in the center of New York City with all those people.
Oh, that would be really kind of confusing.
Like,
Can you identify when there's a bunch of people around?
Yeah.
If there's a spirit opposed to a real person?
Yeah, well, sometimes I get kind of confused, but
Some come in more strong.
some are very, like, I was driving out of a road, and I look over to my left, and there's this woman pulling flowers or weeds around this tree, bent over, and I go, she's unusually dressed. It's kind of, kind of different, and I thought, I've never seen her, and I know there's two men that live there, but when I drove out around, took a right, I looked in my rearview mirror and there was no person there. So I kind of pulled over a little and literally turned around to look, and there was nobody there. But this person was as solid as you and I. And so there are other times when they don't give me a feature of them. They just want me to feel the way they are. So it's kind of different.
Mm.
You know,
Do you have a favorite? Did you have a favorite?
Do I have a favorite?
Well, I mean, one that was like, oh, it's Grandpa Joe that comes in.
So I do have clients that will come in that will reappear, not because the client is there, but their energies that come in, the spirits will come in, and they will help with another spirit coming through that is having a hard time. So, but they will give me, like, they make me feel extremely hot just in one area, like the back, or they'll make me feel flush in the face or something like that. But when they come through, they're like, we're only here. We're not here for anything else other than to help this person through, and they will. And sometimes they will help me decipher what they're saying. Such as Alzheimer's patients, when they pass, they have a hard time with connecting the verbalization to what their thought processes is. So what happens is that I have a memory loss of what I want. I see the picture, but I can't tell you what the word is. So I will tap my head, which is giving an indication to whatever's around me to help me with the process of that, and they will come in. There are clients, loved ones that will continuously come in and out of here quite often, which is interesting. But yeah. But
It's
but
interesting.
but it's interesting too, the fact that when they touch when they touch you without touching you, they come in and they give you that warmth of a mother loving this person that's sitting there, and you can't describe how much that person loves that person, and you wish that you could. I wish that they could feel what it feels like to be loved by that person right at that moment. But it's I do my best.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do anything other than how I can do it.
All
And
right, controversial thing. Have you ever had an angel come through and actually see
yes,
an angel?
yes,
And how
yes.
how how are they with you? I mean, do they talk to you, or they just show you them, or
um
what goes on?
well, there's I do channeling, and I channel energies, angels, and Jesus, and Mother Mary that has come through. And
I heard
um
the demons don't like Mother Mary when she gets called through. They
uh
run. I heard.
she'll pop in, and she's very, very just opened and welcomed, and a force to be reckoned with, not in a negative way, but like anything I dream is possible. Like anything, like I could walk on air, or I can do anything like that. Whereas when I'm speaking with Jesus, it's a comedy act for me. Like that um he's more natural for me.
Down to earth.
So
More down to earth.
yeah, more, yeah, no pun intended, right?
Right.
But yes, I do have angels that are here quite often for me.
So
Or
is one of them Michael?
I
Does he ever
call,
come in?
I don't, I'm not specific with my angels, but I do call the angels in. It's almost like getting a band of people together. They're not one specific person or type of personality, or they don't do just one particular work, but band people come in, and they'll come in and do a job. Let's say build a house or something like that. Like, so I don't ask for one specific, because I may need a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and this. So yes,
So the next question.
you've got a lot going on.
I don't know.
You're really good as an interviewer.
They're
I
just
feel
coming to me today, so I don't know. All right,
I
let's
think you're
just go with
amazing.
it.
I could live with this.
So, have you ever come in with anyone who was possessed by some entity?
I have
Have you been
had
able to see that?
I have worked with another medium, or I should say, they did all the work to show me their process of working with negative energy, which was pretty educational for me. But yes, I have seen and felt it. I have had a client come in, and there was a murder that had happened, and the two individuals that did cause the murder were not passed, but the sensation that the person who was murdered gave me about those two male individuals was a very dark, dark, hollow void. That's all I can say. It was terrible. I mean, but again, I'm not like spooked about it, but I bring in those who help me with work through that process. And those things stay in your mind. You kind of think about it, and you go, this is what that person felt just before they died.
Yeah,
that's
scary.
that's the relationship that person has with those two individuals, who are still living and free, by the way.
No, that's not cool.
Yeah. So that's a kind of, yeah. Are there negative energies out there? Absolutely.
Have you come across the evil? Anything?
That was evil.
That was evil.
That was evil.
Yeah.
I have not experienced anything that dark, that negative, that hollow. But
But no demon speaking to you directly ever.
no demon speaking to me
Thank
directly.
God. That seemed like to me it'd be scary.
But I do work with the angels. I do work with angels. I do work with, if it's out of my league, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, I want to welcome more of the, whatever energy it is. I always ask for the highest and the best of the person that's with me, regardless if I'm doing a reading or anything, and for myself, for pets, for whatever.
I don't think I've ever told you though, but I had a I don't know what you call it, encounter through my sleep that the devil came to me, and he was talking and talking and talking and talking, and I ignored him, and I just put my arms out, and I said, I believe in Jesus, I believe, and wouldn't look at him, and then he finally dissipated. And I talked to the pastor about it, and he goes, oh, he was real.
He was real.
And that's not the last time you'll see him.
Yeah.
So, but I've also had an encounter, as you know, with Jesus. I follow Jesus,
Yeah.
and you told me that in my past, I actually was either a disciple or a follower, some kind of follower. So it was unclear which one that one was, but
I just heard bossy follower.
I'm a bossy follower.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was kind of laughing at that. Sorry.
So my understanding is when you're on the right path is when the devil will visit you or come or try to throw you away.
Yes.
Off the path.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They want it. They don't want, they want you to feel uncomfortable about speaking about the devil or speaking about heaven or anything. They want you uncomfortable, so you don't speak about it. You know, let's say somebody dies and they were not a very good person, let's say, but everybody has a good quality about them. So they would rather dredge up that negative part of that person so that when you talk about them, that's the first thing. So what happens to your energy? It lowers down to similar to the energy level to that person is. I always say, you know, and yeah, find good in everybody, but you have to find, but you can't go into a dark space if you don't operate into the dark space. So when you go into the angel devil kind of a thing, you have to understand that your will is in allowance of working in the light and the dark, or with whatever, the angel, the devil, but to speak openly about it and knowing it and confident that this is not something that you ever want to have in your life.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, there's dark energy in this world. Yeah, and light.
I immediately, I don't know. It's not like I was I don't even know if I was even thinking. It's just immediately, I'm not listening to you. I don't want anything to do with you. Goodbye. You know?
Yeah.
But like I had told you, like I had this dream about Jesus, that I was following him. And then I saw it on TV later. I was like, oh, that's where I was. I was behind him, following his feet, seeing his robe, and there was the sea down below, and there was these tall, the grass, and I was just waiting. He's going, come. And that's all I remember. But I was like, that's why I had asked you about that, you know?
Yeah. I think we all periodically through our lives, some more than others, come through, and we are working with you if you're working in a light, let's say, or you're working in, let's say you're working in a factory and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, you don't know that there's something different out there that could make it easier for you, so you continue to do that thing. Well, when you turn around and have an experience over here and see a different way of doing things, or there is a different way of doing things, then you need to incorporate that with your current way. That's when you have a balance of both worlds. And that's what we do it every day.
Right. And I think that this is my belief anyway, I'm not sure, that God or some entity or some, you know, some light force will send somebody into your path. So it will bring you further on up into your level, or, you know, or the devil could do it. I don't know, or someone, but the point is that there, if you look back on certain people that come and go in your life, they make I used to laugh at it, call it like a pinball game, you know, like when I'm on this path and I'm heading off, I get a boop back, you know what I mean? But it's certain people that come and go in your life. And so I tell my friends sometimes, like, sometimes you just gotta let them go, because they're here just for a season. They're here for just one task. And you are now on that, and they go and they disappear, because you can think about how many people have come and you go in your life and go, oh, where is that person now? I haven't thought that person for like 10 years. And then you realize, and then something comes up because of that person way back then. You're like, oh, that's what was going on, you know? And but we're so busy with our lives that we don't really see that at the moment, you know?
it's a different way of you knowing that you're moving in the direction that you need to move in. So sometimes if you would go, oh, I'm going to stay right here, I'm not changing, then you're going to be here and everybody else is going to be here. And you're going to go, see how lucky they are. You're not going to accept that you're the one that's holding yourself back. So if you move, and you can take baby steps, you might take many baby steps versus longer strides. However you get there, you get there. But it's all about the change of allowing people to come into your life and to leave. They could be here, they could leave for 5 minutes or they could leave for 50 years, but still they remain here because they were very important to your life at that time frame. And no matter what love or hate that you have for that individual, you're still going to remember in the fond way. I'm very fond of that thought. So, and that's growth.
Mhm.
But you'll notice that some people that you're around that you're like, oh, they're a lot to be around right now, and I can't do that. And that's because your tolerance level has now been cracked open, and you're now moving in an open direction where you've never traveled before. So you're much more sensitive, much more aware. You're like, oh, his behavior or her behavior is bothering me. And you're going, it's because you're more aware.
Well, sometimes it's just, I don't want to tolerate it anymore because when you've been hurt over and over and over again, you just don't want to go there anymore. And say, you know what? You need to go work on you. I gotta go. Gotta go. Have fun. You know? But
it takes a lot. It must have taken a lot for you to come to, and we do it on every 3 to 5 years. We move people in and out of our world.
Well, it's harder with family members, especially when they have addictions. So, I mean, like my youngest brother and sister, they have issues, and I feel like they're never going to change unless something drastic happens to them. So, and I feel like that's on purpose, that they're going to go through that. And you have to go work on you because I can't help you anymore because you just keep pulling me down. And it's like in the airplane, I got to put the mask on first and then give it to you, baby, So, and the point is like, they're not going to hear me. I'm like a broken record to them. And unless something drastic happens to them that opens up their eyes, then sometimes it's just not you that's going to do it. So you have to accept that you can't help them. I'm here when you're ready, but you need to, live your life the way, you feel you need to live it. And then come to me when, and my sister has come back here and there a little bit because I was sending her food and she didn't even know it was me sending it to her.
You were sneaky.
Yeah. Well, I guess
it's a good sneaky.
They don't put it's from Stacie. I just had it mailed to her because she was just having, she doesn't have much money and she had a house and she was and all the stuff. So I just every month I was sending her food through a program. So
that's something that is not required of you. That is not something that you have to do. It's something to help them with their first few steps up on something, whether it's the way they talk about themselves or however, but it's just steps up. You're not there to cause harm to them. And they wouldn't accept your kindness if it was
it would be something like, oh, this is some entire motive that you're gonna do here now. So I just secretly sent it every month, last year. So I did it one time this year, a big order. So that she goes, I was wondering where this
you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Somebody had to pay for that.
I finally said, hey, have you been getting any package? Yeah.
I'm so
that was me.
That is amazing that you do that.
Well, my sister does something else too. Because my youngest sister is just, they've changed her medication, so she's a little bit easier to tolerate, talk to, I guess.
Yeah.
But the medical now, and they put my brother on the same stuff, and they were really crazy. And we couldn't even. I'm like, what doctor puts these people on this kind of medication? It's great. They're paranoid. They think everybody's after them, and so there's nothing you can do, And they want that. They want their medication, so you just have to wait till something changes.
That's a tough thing when you see that that type of a change in somebody, very drastic, and then you say, well, you need help, and they go, well, I'm going to the doctor, and then you go, but does this not doctor know what you're going through? Do they see? Do they understand? But
Well, you know, when someone's allergic to something, you're supposed to take everything away, start from
hmm
scratch, and then you add a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And I think, in my opinion anyway, we've gotten so far down the rabbit hole with medications instead of looking, like I was talking about, in your backyard. There's trees. The trees, look to the trees is what the voice came to my head. Look to the tree. So
Yeah.
like a willow tree is aspirin.
Yes.
And each one has like this one's for stress, this one's for the anxiety. It's
Mhm.
right in your backyard. Nobody, well, some people live in apartment buildings, so I shouldn't say that. It's in nature. It's right there.
Yeah.
That's where the pharmaceuticals build from. That's
Yeah.
their first ingredient, and then they tweak it to other stuff. But I think it's just so all about money. And this, what I was saying is, if I forget who it was, I think it was Keanu Reeves. I'm not sure. He said, if you were the medicine should have helped you by now, otherwise it doesn't work. So you shouldn't be having to take it. You should be healed. You should be done with. I'm not wording it properly, but that's the gist of it. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, you don't take it for the rest of your life. It should be a short term of something, because your body has the ability to heal itself.
Right.
But you have to believe in it, and you have to give it. You have to give the things that needs it to operate properly, like proper nutrition, proper exercise. I'm not the best at exercise myself. But I mean, stress. So you got to give your body. It's a machine, so it's like a car. When you think about it, you got to get gas,
hmm
and it's got to be regular gas. Because if you put diesel in, it's wrong, or diesel or gas, and they die. There's cars. So we're a machinery when you think about it. And if you don't give the proper, and if you're just giving it alcohol, I don't think it's gonna grow or the fix or. So that's the point. Is people they keep looking toward, well, the doctor's right. The doctor's right, especially the older people. They're like, my friend's like 98, or I think she's 98, somewhere up there, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, doctor, no, he skipped it. And I just like, you can't talk against that, because they don't see that. But if you go back to way back in the beginning, we were relying on nature to,
Absolutely.
and I think that we're so far away from that now. But there are groups and pockets that are starting to resurface that, remember, maybe, or secretly not knowing that they're remembering, but seeking it out. And the more and more that happens, I think the better off we'll be in general, because people, their chemistry changes. So sometimes if you want a good relationship and your chemistry's all off, it's not going to happen.
Well, the other thing too, and you were talking about the older generation, and I guess maybe I fall into that. I don't know.
No,
But
she's way older than
I don't know. Some days, but what happens is they took all this medication because the doctor knows better, or they're trusting that the doctor. And so I know from personal experience with a friend that he didn't want the doctor knowing that he was having this difficulty, because he didn't want to get on more medication. But what was happening was this medication was causing that issue. And so
they were conflicting with each other.
Yeah. And so, but they're afraid that they're going to be put on more medication when that was happening. So I would go in and I go, okay, doc, we're going to go through this medication, and we're going to wean him back and bring him back to whatever. And it did. And, but it's very difficult for people to acknowledge that they have some medical issues, even though you can't see it, because if I can't see it, it doesn't exist kind of thought process. But to when somebody's telling somebody how many meds they're on or something along that line, people go, my gosh, you must be really sick. Well,
they're all to counter off the other one.
Right.
And it's like, and it might have been just something simple in the beginning. So that's why I just strongly feel like if we just get, but the mainstream media or mainstream medical, whatever you call pharmaceuticals, I'm not going to want this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just strip away and go back to the old ways, you'll find that your body um, is in line with it, and it actually heals itself. I'm not saying everything,
No, but
but
a good portion of it.
I pretty much. I mean, but if you have your contract to go out the door, you're going out the door,
Right, right.
So that medication sometimes may be preventing you, but it's inevitable. You're going out the door, It's like,
Well, you look at too the food aspect of what we put into the food or what is being put into the food. If we could eliminate a majority of what is in that food, then we won't have that illnesses. I don't remember,
live food is the best.
yeah, I don't remember as being hardly any kids were being sick, but now they are. When I was younger, I mean, that's a whole many years ago, but
Yeah, I don't remember when I was younger either.
I
But
don't
see,
remember. I don't remember people, with, the illnesses or that the whole school being sick. I remember the biggest complaint was people that had lice. That was
oh
the
my
big
God,
that was the big
but you're
thing.
scared. But I'm like, oh, I don't want anybody to know I have this.
Yeah, but that was the biggest thing. It wasn't like, oh, you have cancer, at the age of 10, oh, you have cancer. No, it was not that. It was like, oh, we got head lice, we gotta, keep it quiet and everything else. I mean, we had sore throats, we would have our tonsils out because they were, irritated or whatever, but it wasn't these major health issues that were going on.
Chronic ones.
Chronic, yes.
Because I mean, there were some things that I don't know, that
We
they
had mumps and
measles.
chicken pox that
Yeah.
went around. I mean but that was it. It happened and it went away. That's just what
Yeah, that
happened.
just happens the next
Yeah.
day. Yeah, we'll move on.
So and so has chicken pox. Go over and play with them. And so everybody would go play with that kid that had chicken pox, so we could get it out of the way. But now it's different. Everything's different. But again, I think it's the way we need to honor our body versus honoring what is being told to us.
Well, I think some of it too is the more educated you
That's
are of
right.
things, and a lot of people nowadays they just have 2, 3 jobs, and they're just so
Yeah,
tired,
it's
and they
burnout.
don't have any desire to going. So it's easy to go and pick up that or go and do this.
Hmm.
It's like when you think about way back when the Indians or whatever, that knowledge was amongst the whole
Yep.
group. You knew if you were in the woods and something happened like this, you gotta, how to heal yourself. Honey is actually really good for healing
Yes.
yourself. But people don't even have honey anymore.
Hmm.
I love honey, but those are the things is that, so like that was partly why I wanted my school, and it was just like it was technology and everything. But the thing is like it's so hard to get into doing these because you got the schools fighting against you. They're
Hmm.
doing something different. And in my kid goes to the school cafeteria, and they're giving him these free sandwiches and stuff. Now, the bread is not even bread anymore, and stuff like that. And it's like they're feeding my kid garbage, and they're doing it behind my back because it
Yeah.
was free, and he was doing it because all his friends were doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's garbage food. But
Yeah.
how do you stop? There's so much garbage food out there. It's not even real. It's cheap. That's
Yeah.
why. So they make it so cheap. So you have the garbage food.
Yeah.
And I believe in like if you have the best, not like your fruits and vegetables, that way you're giving your body a chance. But if you're
Hmm.
feeding garbage in, garbage goes out. Garbage in comes out.
And that's, I remember the school lunches that we used to get as a kid, and I would go, oh, that's not even food, until we hit the government cheese, and that was real food for us, because you could make macaroni and cheese, and it tasted amazing and all of this. But now, if we were to use that same type of food, the government aspect of things, the powdered milk, we used to have the powdered milk
Oh,
all the
I do
time.
remember the powder milk. Powder milk's actually not bad for you, to be honest with you.
It's true. And so now today you can make a lot of things with that powdered milk if and could store it, like put them in
I think
mason jars and
I
stuff like
have, I
that.
think I have them in storage. I should get some more, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's like about prepping because I like to prep because you never know what's going to happen. So
It's an unpredictable world, along with the unpredictableness of people's emotions, their thought processes. I don't think that I need to make you believe in what I say. I don't have to, because I see you as a person of free speech, free thought, free will. But but there are individuals out there that are very, you know, I need you to believe in what I have to say. And I said, well, I don't understand why you're requiring me to take a side, because when I work with spiritual stuff, there is no side. It really isn't. There is no side. So that's why I'm looking at things going, oh, it's done that process of it. But a lot of people get into it and they need to have that explanation as to why they feel that way. They need to have it justified. And I thought, well, how do I get somebody out of that? And like you said earlier, I can't change somebody unless they want to change
Or when they're ready.
or when they're ready.
So to me, it's like you need to make a decision, and then once the decision's made, it will fall into place.
Yeah.
But if they're as long as they're like in fear, it's usually afraid, because that's where the knowledge comes. To me, the more knowledge you have of things, the less afraid you're going to be, because you can determine your outcome, because you know knowledge. You have the knowledge behind you, and people are so afraid of that's why they pull back, and this is safe for me, and you can't. It's fear you have to break through, because they won't hear you any other way.
Yeah.
It's the fear.
Yeah. And they won't, if I'm approaching in something into a fear base, I need somebody to believe in my fear. That makes my fear justified. And I think you're right. I think if you don't have that fear, what do you have? If you let go of fear, what is it that you're gaining, and what is it you feel you're losing? If I say to you, Stacie, I think you and I need to take a minute apart, and you go, okay, that's great. What are we gaining and what are we losing? I mean, like the gain of knowledge to think of something differently over here, and then coming back and sharing it with you, which is also a gain. So I'm winning on both sides when you and I move aside for a couple of minutes and then we come back together.
Well, that's belief in yourself and your thoughts and your brain. Like I mean, if you're stable and you have, that's what I'm saying. If you have knowledge about certain things, I mean, you are secure with who you are.
Mhm.
But the minute you have to rely on someone else or something else, it's fearful, because now I'm all alone and I don't know what to do.
Remember when we were younger, meaning like 20s, and we were married, and we would always say to our spouses, what do you think about this? Because we were getting approval from them when we really didn't, because it had nothing to do with them. And they would say, I don't know, what do you want to do?
Out of respect. But no, I'm just kidding.
There she is. What am I saying? Like she's a stubborn person going forward. Power. But anyway, so it was that kind of direction that you go into, and you go, well, I'm going to see, what does he think? And so my thought was like, well, what do you think? He goes, it doesn't really matter, because this is dealing with you. That's what he's saying to me. But in my interpretation, I'm going, oh my gosh, like he's not interested in me, because he's not giving his opinion about how I'm dressed, let's say. So I feel as though he's pulling away and he's not interested, because of that's what I'm reading into it, because our communication wasn't strong. It was touch and go, touch and go, touch and go. And so when I would try to get into that or try to understand that, the more insecure I became, because I was thinking it was this way and he's like this way, and then there was no meeting in the middle. So it was kind of that fear based of being
I also think it's more like what you want to do, is respect, but I think it's like being love. You want to be doing things, sharing and having experiences together.
Yeah.
And so the female seems to solicit that usually more, and say, what would you like to do? You want to do this? Because you want them to be a part of you, and sometimes men aren't that way. So for females anyway. So
I will agree with that.
Oh, that's my
I will
take.
agree with it. I agree with that. But but again, I thought of it being an insecurity of mine. And then when I started to speak out and say, I'm doing this, then it came to, well, what are we supposed to do? Like if I wanted a weekend away, it'd be like, well, I would say you like for my spouse, I would say to him, I'd say, you need to stay home for the weekend to take care of the kids so you know what it's like, you know, and he'd go up to his mom's with the kids. So it was kind of, that was the best thing for him.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Yeah, yeah, and it really wasn't because he would take off and do stuff, and the kids would be at the grandma's house, and he would go hunting or whatever. But it was that part of it that I felt, and that this again was the insecurity of me. I felt betrayed. I was like, why it would only take you a weekend to understand these kids more, not what I'm going through, but what these kids are all about, because you're not here a lot. So I wanted that bonding time, but I can't force the bonding
Yeah.
if they're not ready for it.
I get what you're saying. Like, you wanted him to experience being a dad and actually having the role and working through the role.
Yeah.
Because he's missing out. So it's more like, in my opinion, that's what I think is you're feeling you're missing out on these good times, and it's gonna pass. So and then you'll be sorry for it later on, because you know that we know that as females.
And it's funny. It's interesting to listen to other people in their relationships, both men and women, about the relationships, and every type of relationship has the similar issues, and it's not about the control of things. It's about the acceptance of things. And I say, just be who you are. Right now. If you're this way, if you're feeling this way, then just say, I feel this way. You don't have to act on it, because the emotions will definitely take you down a whole different road than if you kind of say, okay, I am feeling this way, and I'm feeling this way because, and it's me that's feeling it. When I say to you, I'm not heard by you, that kind of situation, that's my insecurities, and I'm trying to dump it on you to fix me. And so that's not going to work in a relationship, because you can't fix me, because I'm not ready, because I'm asking you to fix me. So I'm not ready to fix me.
You just want me to be me. You be me.
Yeah. So it's kind of that crazy relationship that people have.
I know. I kind of, in my relationship, I kind of just started to do things on my own, because I just said, you know what? I don't want to miss out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand you want to be a homebody. Be a homebody, but I'm not going to sit there waiting for you anymore.
I know.
That's where I'm at now. I mean, for the longest time, I would do as you would do, like, because I wanted him to be blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But then I just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I need to go out. And it was actually my brother who was so funny to start me doing karaoke. Go up with him to go to karaoke. Oh. And I was like, so that's how it all started. I was like, it's good for me to get away from the situation, and right? Yeah. You go do what makes you happy, and I'll go do what makes me happy. And now I'm like, maybe we're better off now going out together.
It's a stronger relationship, because you're not restricting, or neither of you are restricting each other as to what is interesting for you. So there's a lot of growth in your relationship, even though you may find you're behind and he's ahead, or vice versa.
I don't look at it that way yet.
There's so much growth in your relationship.
But I don't think of it that way. I'm behind or he's forward. Right. I never think that way. He's watching cow videos, and I'm like, I'm out of here.
Well, there are relationships, and there's a lot of them that will say, I feel like I've outgrown him. And I'll say,
that does happen.
So I said, but it's not that you've outgrown him. It's just that your interests have become separate. And so you were taught.
No, I do think some outgrow. Yeah. I do think some do, because they weren't meant to be in the first place. That's why. That's why I think they do out. That's my opinion anyway. Yeah. I think they do outgrow them. Mm-hmm. But it's that knowing that you've outgrown them is your time to move on.
And do it before you get the anger or the emotions step in the way. If you go, you know what, I just don't feel like we're working together, and let's have that time apart. It's.
Yeah, I have a friend that I just recently talked to him and saying, listen, we outgrow people. We do outgrow people, in my opinion. And I said, and it's time that you move on. And at that point, maybe this the other partner will decide, hey, I want to go with him or I don't want to go with him. And then that's how you know. But you need to, it's time for you to grow, to move on. And it's up to the other individual whether they want to grow with you or they want to stay put. So you know, I mean, some people, in my opinion, do move apart from each other. But then they can come back. They can come back or they stay permanently away. So
was this something that you realized recently, or is this something that you've realized, or it's slowly crept up on you, these understanding about how life works?
Oh, I don't know. I just sometimes I don't know where it comes from, but it just flows out of me sometimes. For other people, I don't always know it for myself.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
But like I can see things, just see them, what's going on, and know. And I can tell you about, you know, here, and you do what you want to do, but this is what I see.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, and I don't really, you know, sometimes you think like, oh, you don't deserve anything more, you know, because you didn't have. Or, you know, like in my situation, my father was abusive to me and my mom at times, and my mom she abandoned us. So I have that to work with, you know. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm like telling them, you know, but I've had so many struggles that I'm at the point where I was like, you know, I'm worthy. I'm worth something. Everyone is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you know, you have to decide what is it that you're worth. What do you deserve to have someone treating you badly? No. Do you deserve to have a good life? Yes. So you just start saying no and yeses to things, and then it gets more simple, I think. But there's still always complications. Life is complicated.
But they're different complicated. They're not, you can tell when you've broken the soul contract of what it is. And you were talking about being in a relationship with your father that was not healthy for you. And so you didn't continue that throughout your life to be in relationships, friendships, relationships, whatever. You didn't continue that all throughout your life.
Well, you start and then realize it later on.
Yeah. And then you there's an understanding that's I'm going to call it like an epiphany or a lightning, you know, bolt that hits you and you go, wow, this is all the same type of personality over here. I'm going to choose something different over here. And at the first time you choose that over there, it gets a little scary, you know, it gets a little like,
yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. My situation was a little like, I don't know if it was different or whatever, but my mom abandoned us, and I had my brothers and sisters. Like I was taking care of my brothers and sisters. So then you throw in a guy, you think, oh, he's the savior, and he ends up being, you know, crazy. Yeah. And I just remember him, you know, saying, divorce. And I go, you have your divorce. Because he was just doing that to manipulate me. And I just felt like, no more. You can have your divorce. Can have it. And let me tell you, he appealed my divorce twice. Who does that? Because he didn't really want me to go. But I was like, no, once you make a decision, that's why I'm saying, if you make a decision, you know what path you're on. You're just moving forward. It's like, nope, no more. That's it. But it takes a lot of guts. And like when I was little, one time, like we weren't allowed to, I don't know if we should be telling this kind of story, but when I was young, my dad forbid we moved into the city, and the city had some ethnic people there that they were a little rough, and you know, he's like looking at a white girl, you know, in that area, and he said, "You're not allowed to be in the front of the house at all." Oh, right. So me and my friend were walking our dog. It was a Doberman Pinscher, by the way. And we stopped at the driveway, and I was saying goodbye to him, and then I was going to go in. My father saw it when he was coming down the hill, and when I got a beating when I got into the house. Right, he's like, and he's hitting me, and I was in a corner, and he's hitting me. I don't know what possessed me, but I stood up and I said, no! And I stopped right this far away from his face, and he just looked at me. And then I ran away. And then the next day he's sitting and watching TV, and he goes, I gotta tell you something, girl. You got guts. and left it at that.
Really?
But that was when I started to take back my power.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just gets away from you, and you've got to take it back. But it's that little no, and it's a decision. In my opinion, it's just a nope, no, that's it.
Yeah.
I deserve more.
Yeah.
I am worthy.
That's
So,
quite a powerful thing. How old were you when that happened?
I was like 14, something like that.
Wow. That's
14,
a turning
15,
point there.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm not gonna take. And he never touched me again.
Wow.
Never touched me again. And then he had never hugged me before. My parents had split, and we went to the house to go see one of our siblings, and he grabbed me and he held me, and I was so empty. I didn't know how to feel because I had been beaten by him over and over again, and so I just didn't know. I'm like, what is this? And I'm trying to search in my head,
Yeah.
and I still to this day remember that moment, going, oh my God, what was that? It was foreign to me. So sometimes I still have that. I can shut that off with people,
Yeah.
and it's I don't know if it's scary or whatever, but I have that ability to just shut the emotion off when you just decide. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but
I think at the time when we grew up in that environment, that was a survival technique.
yeah,
And so yeah, and we do use it even to today. Like we see two people, going at each other or talking. It's not our journey to get in between them. It's up to them. But you're like, I'm taking back control of who I am and what I am, and you can. And then when he says, well, let me get affectionate, or let me hug you, or let me do this, you're like, it's an unwanted touch, because that's all you know from him is unwanted. And so
it was nothing. I didn't get any. I didn't
right,
get any, but of a
right,
hurt.
right.
But it was interesting though, because my one of my boyfriends we went rock climbing, and I was so
Ooh.
terrified of going over the edge. And I don't know if you've ever gone rock climbing. You have to, when you're going over a cliff, you have to hold onto the rope and literally just drop, let go, like
Yes.
nothing on, and then grab to the wall. And I was scared. And then he said, Stacie, I saw it go all over your face. You all of a sudden, I shut that emotion off and just did it, because I told myself, just do it,
Yeah.
Stacie. And
It's
that's
only
what I
one
did.
way down.
But he said, yeah, I could actually see it right all over your face, just like blank.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know, that's kind of scary, I guess, when you think about it. But you have that ability, you've got that power.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone has that power to turn it off, and that's why you see some of these women who have been abused, all of a sudden that's it, I'm fighting back.
They're done.
Yeah.
And they honestly believe, even though the person's being abusive to them, they say, well, they didn't mean it, or
no, they definitely meant it.
They apologize for it, and you're looking at it and you're going, no, just back out of the door, just don't take anything, just back out of the door, because when you come back, you're stronger, you're more prepared. But yeah, it's tough to watch individuals who are going through what you're going through. It's very tough, and nobody knows what to do, because back then nobody really said anything about it.
Oh yeah, he didn't dare to. But
teachers would know, and things would happen. And
so tell me about your high school then, like because you could see things and no one could.
High school.
Did they like label you this, or did you just know things about other people? Like that was like, well, he's gonna make a good husband, or something like that.
I don't know. I remember my high school times. Of course, my growing up was not always the best, and so I remember just trying to get through high school and get out of high school.
But did they know you had this
My
exercise?
parents never knew. I never said anything, because it went against the religious aspect of it. My friends, one of my favorite places to hang out was the cemetery. Loved hanging out in that place. And
oh my God.
yeah, we would spend.
We used to have to hold our breath when we were
No.
I thought this spirit was gonna come in.
No, Friday and Saturday night we'd head out to a group of us used to head out to the cemetery and hang out. And so one time I was sitting there, and we were sitting close to this thing, and so all of a sudden I was just getting all this information in, but I really didn't talk to my friends about it. I go, let me see your palm, and they would laugh and go, you're going to read my palm. But it was not the palm that it was touching them, gave me a clarity of who that, so it's called psychometry.
Oh, the clarity of whoever the spirit was.
So no, clarity of, I wanted to know if that spirit belonged to the person that I was with.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have any education as to what I knew. So, so I would touch their hands and go and I look out. So there's this woman that her name is Catherine, and she had passed. And we were near her cemetery, her plot, and so I was sitting there and I look up and I see this an image behind a tombstone, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's this woman. Does anybody else? And I looked over and I looked back over and I said, anybody else see that? I said, this is what I'm getting and this is what I'm thinking. And nobody saw it. So I thought, okay, don't say anything because you don't want to get made fun of or anything. But my friends nowadays
labeled back then.
Yeah, my friends would kind of, I lost touch with my friends, and now I'm now reconnected with them, and they'll laugh about that. And they go, remember when you used to try to do palm reading? And I'm like, that was called psychometry, because I knew nothing. I still know nothing about palm reading. It's all about, the feeling. People will bring things into my work and say, can you feel this, or the ashes, or the hair, or jewelry, or.
And so when you get that, what it's just images that come
many images that come through, and emotions that come through at the same time, which is, it would be funny because I will say, oh, let's say, they're showing me a picnic kind of a thing, but I'm sobbing my heart out, and it's not what happened at the picnic. It's happened at another time frame. So I'm jumped from time frame to time frame on that. So
you never know which era you're in either. No?
I don't know. And I look at the individual and I say, well, is this running true for you? Not that I want validation, but it gives me a sense to slow them down from giving me, too much information all at once. And so that you can see everybody. And then again, I have everybody record because you can see that they're like trying to process. And so anyway, but as far as high school, yeah, I kind of like to party in the high school aspect.
Was it worse when you were under the influence?
I'm telling you, there was a moment when I thought I saw Jesus walking across this lake, and I heard.
I turned back at you.
You can. You can. I heard you can do it. Come on, you can do the same thing. And I was like, I go.
How much masculine were you on?
So I do, and I have fond images or memories of things that have come across, and they would be like, we'd be kind of partying and in the woods, and then I go, we gotta go, we gotta go.
Woods when we were kids, huh?
Yeah.
Now they don't do that stuff.
No, they do it at people's homes where the parents are sitting right there.
I know, that's so bizarre.
I don't know. I mean,
beach in the woods were the two places we would go.
Oh, see, we couldn't get to the beach. We weren't close enough in the beach.
Or lake. Sometimes a lake.
Well, once in a while we do a lake, but that was, we would go swimming and whatnot. But again, it seems like for me, time travels so quickly at times, but it was interesting being a teenager.
So I thought one time it would be the coolest thing, because my friend has a friend that goes around. He was doing some ghost stories and stuff. I'm like, how cool would it be if you did go to a gravestone and different ones, and the life of this one, and some maybe never told to anyone else, and it would be just like, how cool would it be to just kind of go through?
It would be fun.
And just and then you can go back and actually look up the person, I would think,
Well, in that case, for me personally, I don't remember anything about the readings anyway. So even if I was to read something about somebody, it would get wiped clean at the time that we're having a session. But what would be cool is that if somebody went to a place and they get the history of that and basic history or whatever it is, so that there's a validation point for that.
Well, that's what I meant afterwards, but you think before.
Yeah, because then I would say, does this make sense to you? And if they would go, doesn't make sense to us, but what would happen at that point, the spirit would come in, and then they would go, okay, we're giving you several points
to go to the graveyard now.
Several points of interest, and you're not doing it, so we're going to leave. So they'll take off. Somebody else will come in and say, well, what about this? And then if there's no validation, then they will take off and leave. So it's not like they hang out 24/7. They will
How do they
come
just
in
pop
and
in and how, do you know how they know to just, all right, time to like, it's like
yeah.
they're being paged. Come down here, Spirit.
Well, sometimes they'll come in like weeks before, or like if somebody, I try not to look at who's on my schedule so that I don't get images right away, so that I don't. But sometimes they'll come in like days in advance and talk
Like my
about
son.
something, and you look at it and you go, "What are you doing here?" Or my dogs will perk up and they'll look over and I go, "Not today, not today. This is my downtime right now. I'm just doing downtime." They don't leave; they kind of hang out, but they don't intrude. It's like, if you say to somebody, just give me 5 minutes, and but then again, it's, as long as they don't bother my dogs, I'm fine with them. But yeah, there's a lot of, when they come in, um, there are some spirits that will try to stop that individual from coming through.
Oh, I
So
wanted to ask you about that. Okay, go on.
yeah, there's some individuals that will stop that person from coming through. Could be different variety of reasons, but there are other people, that will come through. So like I was saying, there are other, spirits that will come through from other clients, that will come through, that will move that spirit aside if indeed that is the spirit that they want to come through. So there are helping spirits, if you want to call it, or there are helping souls.
But this is some that get prevented from talking to you then.
I'm aware of, it's like the room disappears, and I'm aware of a lot of movement, for miles and miles and miles out. And I'm aware of it. So whoever wants to come through, I give safe passage to. So instead of me going up to somebody and saying, "Come, you need to come and stand in the middle of the room and talk," I then allow that person to come in and say, and we'll have short conversations, similar to some people that come see me. They're super nervous, and I'll have a short conversation with them, but I'm also giving them a little hints of the readings that's going to be happening. And then I go, "Okay, are you ready?" Because I'm ready to go. I think they're all lined up, but they're already been there. So they'll come in, and we'll have a conversation about it. And the person that's here is much more relaxed about receiving it, or the information, whether it's somebody that they want to hear or not. Which is very hard for somebody if you've had a lot of trauma like you, and your dad pops in and says, "I'm here," and you're going, "But I'm not ready for that right now."
Yeah. Well, I'm different because I've kind of figured
Yeah.
out.
Well, that's growing, when you turn around and say, "He did what he did because that's who he is," and you go,
But
"But
that's his. It could be his role too. That
that's
was
his role."
his contract that he came in.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he was supposed to learn from it. Maybe it was supposed to be me sticking up to it. I don't know.
Well, but the contract stated that you wanted this to be treated this
Right.
way, and
Right.
but he treated you this way, and that's his responsibility. Yours is about this.
I see.
So, but you're not, if you live through life with a lot of trauma and you're saying, I need people to understand the trauma that I went through, you haven't quite got it yet.
Yeah. No.
So,
I had a friend who wanted to interview me on my because I've had so much trauma. Um, even as a baby, I guess I came out bleeding at my wrists and all over. My I was, so I'm like, they were even
mm,
trying to take me then, right?
no,
So,
not necessarily.
another thing for me to go through. But I was gonna. It popped into my head something else though. Sorry. Ouija boards. When we were kids, we dabbled with Ouija boards. So there's a couple of things that happened. I bet you've done that too. But I dabbled with a friend, and I had stuff stolen from my house, and we made the circle, and we did, I think, everything worked correctly. I'm not positive. And someone stole stuff from us, and that was our major reason why to check the board.
Okay.
And it kept saying, these coordinates, but we didn't know they were coordinates at first. What the hell is L, this, that, da, da, da? And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's a coordinate. So we pulled up the map and we found it was actually 2 towns over that supposedly the stuff was at. And it was in a building that was kind of boarded off, but there was people that were in it, still goes in it. And I was like,
Oh.
so then of course we started playing a little bit more of that. And there was supposedly this young boy in there and was talking to us. But then he's like, I gotta go. He's coming. And I'm like, who's coming? He won't. He doesn't want me to talk to you. And I'm like,
Ah.
why? Because you can help me pass over.
Yes.
So I
The-
wanted to ask you about that, because obviously there's some spirits that don't want other ones to go.
Right.
Okay, so that could have been true
Yes,
then,
it is true.
because we were kind of creeped out by
Yeah.
that. You know,
Well, you
and
do.
my father, I could help. My father was one of them, so he wouldn't let my father come through either.
Right. Well, in the spirit form, you have haunted places, right? You can go to a
Well,
haunted
we were in a
house.
200-year-old house
Yeah.
too.
You can go to a haunted house, right?
Mhm.
But if you go there and the person that's in the house, or like you have these inns or places that are haunted, and they make their money out of that. And so if they know that you're a medium or whatever, they will tell you not to cross the person over. If the person requests it, please don't do that. Right. Which I have
Yeah.
found, I've been to two places that I found that being a little weird and bizarre, because if
They
the
wanted
soul
to
wants to
continue.
go,
Yeah.
but the soul feels locked into this area. One, because a lot of souls are locked into this in between world because of that they felt so guilty about the way that they were.
Do they know or no?
And other times that they're locked in with a person. So that person, spirit or not spirit, has kept them there in that log. Do they know that they're kept? It takes them a bit to understand that they have no guilt, that there's no shame, no guilt. But when they leave or start to leave because they are shown the light, they are being held back because they're in fear of, like if I'm a spirit and you turn around and and you're a spirit and you're going to go, I'm going to hurt your family, Jen, then I'm going to stay because I don't want you to hurt my family, because I think it's possible as spirit. And it is possible. People do get harmed by spirit, and people do get harmed by themselves, so anyway, so yes, humans do hold spirits in the location that they're at. And also there is spirit that does hold spirits into the location. And again, negative energy is more apt to do that. There are people who are remaining in like their house that they lived in because they choose to. They love living with the family that's in there. They love watching TV, being a part of the meal. They love that routine that's going on in the house, and they will let the person know if they don't like the color on the wall. They'll let them know, and until you change the color of the wall back to what it was, and then everything stops. It's not a big deal, but they're choosing. But then you have the residual effect where you see the spirit come in and walk in, and then they walk out that area. It's not a door, it's a wall, but that's where a door used to be. And the spirit, it's a residual. It's different than having the spirit there. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting factors. I don't think anything should be held in a place that it's not the highest and the best for them. It's about going into the love and or going into a place where you're going to grow spiritually as well. And here in earth, you're growing as a human. You're growing spiritually and humanistically. But when you cross over, you're all spirit. But why keep somebody or something locked in a location that they don't
No, I
want to
just
be?
thought that was weird. I thought that was a
Yeah.
little bit scary.
I know.
So we kind of like, okay, goodbye. But then there was another time that I dabbled a little bit, because for some reason I could barely, I didn't even have to touch it and it would move.
That's right.
And people were kind of a little weirded out by that too.
Well, it's your energy.
Yeah. So we had one time, so I was teaching, it was my daughter's friends. They would come over and we'd have a fire out back. And so we did the Ouija board, and we did the circle to create the protective boundary. But later on, you told me something, so this will tie this into there. And so we were doing the Ouija board, and they were so surprised how it was really moving, and I wasn't touching it. And they were doing it with me, but they were, and they were, somehow it came up that all the spirits were coming all along the barrier of the property. They were all coming. And we got totally scared of that. So, because we're like, oh my God, what are we doing?
You invite them in and you go, nope, don't want you in.
No, and I said, and we have to keep the protective circle and say
Yes.
goodbye before, because that will allow them to come
Yeah.
in. So, and it reminded me of when you told me that spirits seem to gravitate to my property for some reason.
Yes.
Naturally.
It is.
So that obviously
Yes.
was true, that they were
It
there.
is.
I couldn't see them, but they said whoever was in the
Yes.
board said they're all coming.
Yeah. And the other thing too, when you're using a Ouija board, you open the board and then you close the board.
That's what we did. We
Yeah,
did
they
the
open
circle, and we greeted them,
Yeah.
and then we said goodbye. We're going to go, and then we would do the salt separate, yeah, because you have to put the salt. That's what.
And there's a lot of people that do what I do, that they do use the Ouija board, and it's no different than using a pendulum or dowsing rods or anything
That's
else
how I
like
communicate
that.
with the source. I use a pendulum,
Yeah.
but I don't always know if I'm asking the right questions because it doesn't
They
always
already
come.
know the questions before you, because it will start moving.
But I don't know if I'm interpreting it correctly
Oh,
because
see.
it could be it is a yes, but a yes to a point because I don't know the rest. You know what I mean? Because somehow it changes or whatever. I'm like, but you said this was going to happen, and it didn't happen that unfold that way. And I'm saying, well, it's got to be me. I don't know how to ask the questions that it's
Mhm.
definite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, in it's spirit, when you're talking to spirit gives only like a few words, and it doesn't give a complete sentence. So when you're talking with
I'm just
with
doing
a
yes and
pendulum,
no.
yeah, and the pendulum, you have to be more specific, more direct in your question. When I'm asking spirit a question, I'm asking it out of all my senses and what I see, hear, feel, think, and all of this other stuff. When you're doing the pendulum only moves because your energy source is matching that energy source. So I would, if you're going to do that, do this, but also open your energy to match with their energy, or to open up to their visions or your feelings. Or so this spirit may show you only images, and the next spirit right after that one will only give you
I always
emotions.
ask God, I ask
Yeah.
the source. I said, am I only want to speak with you, basically?
It's very cut and dry.
But
It's
I just think I don't ask the
long-winded.
questions the right way, or it can change. From 1 minute, this is what it's
Absolutely.
going to be, but something else happened, or something,
Mhm.
out of his force. It just happens.
Or you decided that
Somewhere along the way.
this was the way you were going to go versus this way. Yeah, there's a
So
lot of free will.
I was like, can I have a direct question
Yeah.
answered?
I can't get a pendulum to move. Honestly, I
I do
can't.
it. It's
I can't get
immediate.
it to move so it stays straight, and I go, so that's not something for me. And I've used dowsing rods. I have some dowsing rods, and I've used dowsing rods, but they seem to swing all over the place. And but if I was to use coat hangers, the metal coat hangers, I'm much more accurate with the coat hangers than I am with a.
Is it because of the metal? Is this a specific
I don't
metal?
know.
Or?
I do know that one time my dog was looking in the hallway and looking down the hallway, and I couldn't see or feel anything, and I said, I know something's there. So I went into the closet, pulled out two things, and said, show me. I did the little thing like, this is for my highest and best, as well as for my dog, blah blah blah, his highest best. So I'm walking down, I said, please show me where the energy is, and it directed me right to a location. And it wasn't electrical, it wasn't anything like that, no metals, no nothing. So it directed me towards that. And I said, you bother me when you bother my dog. I said, you need to leave. And of course my dog's looking up at me, and he looks over to the side, looks back over to me, and I said, still here. And I used the routes as to where it is, and everything went this direction. So I went to that direction, then it went to this direction. I went over there, and I said, you need to leave now. And then with my mama bear thing, I called in my angels, and I called in those who help clear my thing, and I said, you need to help me with this one, and cleared. And I said, so I looked at my dog, and he's looking at me, and he's not looking anywhere else, and his tail's a wagging, so it was gone. So if you come in a rude way, that's going to happen. But so pendulum stuff, body, if you stand up and you're standing with your arms by your side and you say, show me yes, your body will move either side to side, forward or backward, or it will stay in a position. If you say, show me no, it will show you the direction where no is. So you can use your body at the same time.
Yeah, I was just
Look at you, yeah. That's not as exciting.
Yeah, I feel like I would get a little worse lost there,
Yeah, because it's constant. And again, it's a constant. You're asking spirit to work with you, in helping you in the guidance of what you need answered. And a lot of times before you finish
I
the,
said, can
the
I
question,
please know the answer to this?
and they go, no.
Sometimes it is a no. You're not ready yet.
It's not now.
It's not your time now.
Not now.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it's going.
So it's interesting that you'd use the pendulum for that. And it's quite interesting. I always find it fascinating that people can do that because I can't.
That's the only way I figured out, because I'm like, I went to a Salem, Massachusetts. I was having during my divorce, right? And I was like, God, please give me an answer. Show me the way. I'm going to go to it, because supposedly the source will talk to you in the way that you can be spoken to.
Yes.
And I go, I'm very numb. I go, I don't always see things. I just don't pay attention, so sorry, So I went there because I wanted to start a business, and I ended up doing that. But I went there, that's all I wanted. And there was this young guy who was, I know, I suppose, which medium, whatever you want to call him. And he was doing my cards, and I had asked a specific question, and that was that. And he says, your father's saying to do this. I go, and then I'm like, my father's dead. He's like, I'm saying your father. And another card, and then another card. He goes, your father is definitely telling you to do this. I'm like, well, how can that be? My father's dead. He's going, I don't know. It says the father, the father, the father. I'm like, oh, gosh, I'm so sorry. I asked you, and I'm so dumb even now. And the guy goes, he was actually a little thrown off by that, because he couldn't believe that was coming through my reading, because I asked the source for the answer,
and he was giving it to you,
and I was being so numb. I'm like, oh, and then finally when he said it, the father, I was like, oh my gosh.
So I love that.
Yeah. I was like, oh my, and I did that. Oh my God, I'm even so numb. I asked for it. You still.
Can you imagine them laughing over there, like on the other side, and they're going, "See, we told you she wouldn't get it."
They probably did, but it really shocked, because it was a young guy, and I don't think he was expecting to be talking to the source that was coming through, and he literally was shocked, and I was like, oh, okay. So I mean, because I remember that the most,
Yeah. It's pretty interesting being in Salem. It's an interesting thing.
I like it there for some reason. But the last time I went there, I was overwhelmed by some kind of energy or something. It was just making me walk. It was in this park where they're having these amusement and stuff, and I was with my son and my grandson, my daughter, and I'm like, finally I said, I got to get out of here. I don't know what's going on, but I can't. I was just like ready to pass out. I was going, what's going on with me? And as soon as I got out of the park, it was fine, but something was at me constantly. I got to get out of this area.
Yeah, it's okay to have them like ask your source or who you work with to take them away.
Well, I didn't know what was going on until I spoke to you. I came here and spoke. That was one of the reasons why I came to speak to you, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what all that was about.
But you're very, what I call psychometry. When you touch things, you get a lot of sensations from that. So their thing, the way that they communicate with you is through that feeling or through that sensation. That's the best way that they can get, or and the same, you're all about tactile, like the pendulum and things like that. So yeah, they doesn't surprise me that they're coming through like that for you. Yeah, and it elevates, it changes a lot. There are times I can see images, and then they'll black everything out or make everything white, and they take my sight away. And so I go, okay, what way do you want me to see, or how do you want me to work with this one? So you have one spirit here that only wants me to go by emotions, and you have another one that wants me to do tactile stuff. I said, he reminds me of shards of glass, or this one's like, oh, this one's all emotional, and I feel weepy heepy, and it's a different thing. They're coming through two at the same time that way.
Don't you ever have two spirits butting heads that they want to be the one speaking?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that happened today as well. A couple times today. I go, oh look, this is, and then they're starting to laugh, and she goes, well, just tell them to stop that. And I said, well, but it comes through when she said it. they stopped when I was trying to get it. They're going, but you can see us, you can hear us, you can see us. But when she said, tell them to stop, they knew that they were being disrespectful. So, and it's not that they don't know, they just go, but we want to talk.
Because
We
they're
want to
excited.
talk. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So do we have any now?
Oh, yeah, we got.
Have they come more when you're talking
again,
about it? Or?
Like your brother, I mean, like your son and your father, they're coming through. They're being, they want to always be a part of this kind of genre that you are creating now. They want to be as one with you instead of being against it.
Did you ever see someone like really, really far back, like and it looks like a Viking or something? Because I have a lot of Vikings in my family, but something like that. Do you ever?
I do. I mean, and I always try to keep it with the center. Like I've always said to you, always try to keep it close to you because you can validate that. But I can say, oh, you're an Egyptian queen, you know, and everybody's going to go, everybody tells you
I want to be an Egyptian queen.
I want to feel what it feels like to be dressed in gold.
Well, I do suppose I come from royalty, but I don't know.
Well, there's a very comfort level of you being in a higher thing. But now we're choosing, like, let's say this lifetime I want to be in poverty, and next time I come through I want to be in riches, you know, or I want to be I want to be unloved in one and loved in another.
Well, that's what Dolores Cannon says. You have to be everything.
Yeah.
You've been the wind.
You have to be that way.
You've been the wind. You've been. And my favorite one is she says I talked to someone who was a rock. She goes, oh, what's it like to be a rock? He goes, very slow. And I always remember that one because you have to be everything. The tree, yeah. So
you have to experience everything in order for you to come to a completion of your soul, and you can't unless you've had a completion of soul. You know, like that experience of everything. You know, what is it like to be treated nice and not nice? And some of us have chosen those two things in one lifetime.
I've had many of them in this one lifetime.
Yeah.
And they tell you you're not supposed to do it, but I must have been like, I want to come out with a bang. Because I've had some whammies this whole lifetime.
No more whammies in your life. Right? No, but it's intriguing to me that when I see a breakage of a person's lifetime, like you've got sequences in your lifetime that you turned around and said, all right, this is how I want to be treated here and here. But this is kind of going into a little bit of here, but then you go, I'm going to skip a time frame in my life, and then I'm going to be treated the same way as what I was over here because I'm not quite sure I've learned everything. So everything about your life is like, it's like, you know, rolling out dough and then cutting it into
this one lifetime or all of them?
No, this one lifetime. It's been one of the toughest lifetimes that you've experienced in your roles of lifetimes, I'm going to call it. But this lifetime has been also sequenced that you could have divided it amongst 4 lifetimes if you wanted to, but you decided not to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I started at birth. I mean, I've been through like everything you can think of. But then it's still something comes up. Like I had a nasty boss. So I'm like, did I really have to learn that one?
But that was a reminder of what you had when you in the past, you know, somebody who's telling you didn't know what you know. And you're an extremely smart individual, and you've done a lot of things in your life, more things than I've done. But you've touched lightly upon a lot of things in your lifetime. And her behavior, this woman's behavior, was because she lacked, and the massive amount of insecurities. But who's insecure when you were growing up? Who was the insecurity when you were growing up?
I don't know.
You think your dad was?
Well, some people who are abusers have that.
Yeah. And do you think that your husband was an insecure person?
Yes, probably.
And so you had a lot of insecurities. Then there was a part when there was no insecurities. And then there was a part of an insecurity. Are you sure you're done with all this insecurity? And you go, yes. And done.
Yeah,
it was just a reminder of what you don't want.
I stood up to her, and I called her. I said, "You're being a tyrant." I think it must have blown her socks off.
I can see you looking square-eyed.
I could not. Well, we were virtual, and I just could not take it anymore because she had done it to multiple people before me, and I was just like, "No, you're not going to treat me this way." And I was just like, gave it right back to her.
That's when you broke soul contract of having to repeat what your father, your ex,
Good.
and all this
I
other
don't
stuff.
want to deal with that again.
But you've done it, and so now it's for you. It's an easy street in a way because now you're getting rid of all of those people who aren't treating you that way, or you're moving them off to the side. You're like, my brain can't wrestle with that anymore. I can't be a part of that
I just
storyline
don't want to.
anymore.
Yeah, I just don't understand why people have to be mean or selfish or whatever. I just
My
don't get
question
it,
is
though. That's
why did you invite them into your soul
fear. I
contract?
don't know. I don't know
That's my
what I was
question.
thinking of.
Like, you didn't do it once or twice, you did it 3 times, maybe 4 times,
I think
but
there's several people in my whole life that's
Mhm.
been that way. You know, and they.
So what are you getting out of it? That's my
I
thing.
just don't want to tolerate that kind of behavior. It's no
Right.
need for it.
But you've invited it in. That's the thing. That's you've put it into your timeline that these people are going to be more, even though they're that way, they're going to be stronger this way. I'm going to notice them now. So now you're
Yeah, I
noticing.
think that was part of it that I thought I would. I thought I would know. I mean, like when I first met this lady, she seemed like she was on my side. She was going to be great. I was like, she gets me. I get her. And it just turned into like, no matter what I said,
Hmm.
she just daggered me.
Yeah.
And so I just realized I'm like, I think the guy wanted me and she didn't
Right.
and
But
pretended.
but he's also tolerating her being in there.
Yeah. And so yeah, I just said, you know what? And I think about it, as sometimes when I start thinking about it, it was like I had heart palpitations and stuff because I'm like, why am I having? I'm like, why am I getting upset about this? I'm like, screw them, you know. And now I have this. When I even think about it, it's this ugly feeling inside. I'm just like, no,
Yep.
go away.
Yep. That's you breaking off the final little strands of that. Again, we come in, we learn, we do what we do, and then we just keep on moving on.
I went to see a hypnotist. I never
Ooh.
really I didn't really get hypnotized that I thought like well I'm gonna be out cold and I won't see anything or anything. No, he's like just has you breathing and then he's talking to you, and I didn't really feel anything like that, but there was things that were coming out of my mouth that I wasn't really sure where it was coming from
Hmm.
and why it was coming from. But we were talking about how people are so mean. And I was saying that they're just so mean and they don't even know what they're doing. These people in general just don't. And I don't even know why I was saying that. But then on the ride home, I'm by myself. I had to pull over. I started crying like
Oh,
unbelievable. I'm like,
wow.
why are you crying? Because I was feeling so overwhelmed by something, and I was like, these people just don't get being nice is the way, being love is the way, and all this hate. And I was like, it was all I don't know, like started bursting out crying. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you crying?
Well,
you
it's
know?
a release because the body's the capsule for whatever the emotion is.
Yeah.
So the body has to release it, and so it does.
But I mean, it's like, why was I carrying all that?
Because that's what you do. That's you. That's why I'm saying you had your father, and you didn't have protection on any length of your contract. You didn't set in, I'm going to be rescued or saved, or somebody's going to come and be nice to me or anything like that.
Yeah.
You said, I'm just going to keep on trudging through the mud, and you did, and you kept going and going and going from one trauma to the next. And so when you turn around and you go, I'm tired of it, I'm done with it, why does this have to happen? And so you released it at that point. So
Yeah.
yes.
I'm like, I'm done. But then I had another little small episode.
Well, but that's a reminder. How done are you? Are you gonna like wear it like you've been wearing it all along, or are you gonna, say goodbye? But you're coming to the understanding that this is not what you want anymore is huge too. So, which again, when you have souls that gather around you, there's a lot of history of trauma in your wheelhouse back, your families and everything else. But But back then, you're carrying the weight of your family. When you move forward through this, you're now going, okay, you're not only just doing it here in this world, but you're doing it in the spirit world. And you're also assisting them in the spirit world to let go of their responsibility of their trauma. And don't mean like, oh, you're forgiving them and it's, let it God, let it be. It's not, it's you going, I'm no longer going to carry the burden that you asked me to carry. I'm going to carry my love and happiness, and you're no longer going to take that down that road of burden. And so that's what happens. And so when you release things like that, like, it's amazing that you did that. I mean, you were thinking of self, not like anybody else.
I was like, I would never have done that in the past. but I had owned my own company, and I never ever treated anybody that way. And I just didn't understand, why is she acting this way? You know what I mean? It's like, and there's like very little training. Like, so I'm supposed to know everything, which I started discovering, and I actually was pretty close to knowing everything. But I was just a little bits and pieces here and there, but I had to do it on my own, which I didn't mind doing that. But because I did it on my own, you don't slap me because I may have done something wrong.
That's right.
So
That's
it's
right.
like, you pick people up. You say, okay, great, you've gotten this part. Let me just show you the rest. Let me show you where you may have gone wrong. Let me go through it with you. And but I was not allowed to ask questions, which was really weird.
She was probably thinking that you already knew everything before you came in, and so, but everything's different. I mean, you can go into your job 10 years later and you'd still have to learn it over again, even 5 years later.
Yeah, because something gets moved, something I mean, I could basically know all of the other stuff, but it was like there was these weird things. Why is it done so archaic? Like, is what I was trying to get through.
That's their way of working, which works best with them, which means they never move forward.
Yeah, so I was trying to wrap my head around going, I did this stuff 20 years ago, and I'm trying to figure out, why is it like, why you have all these things on the outside? Why not have it in one area, so you work within that one area, and it'd be more efficient? So I was trying to figure out, I'm like, and they were all man-made things that she did, and I was like, I had to learn her man-made sheets and stuff, and I'm like, and I'm trying to say, why is, and it was just so bizarre, and I was like trying to get my head around all that. Because I mean, their system, if you just had set it up properly, and I tried to, I contacted the software company with their IT guy, and to discover that I was correct with what I was saying and doing, and saying, you need to do this so it's more efficient.
But she didn't have the capacity to learn.
She told him not to even listen to me anymore, and that's it. And we're not doing that.
But because her job would become obsolete.
Whatever. I mean, the point is it may not have been obsolete. She should have been able to rise up and say, okay, now I can focus on these other, because I went through this whole leadership thing. I was like, now I've got time to focus on what really means the next adventure of this company. We move it here because now we've got this all fixed. But now that it stays broken, it won't move forward. It's gonna die on the vine. And she doesn't see that. But I can see it, and I know it, and I'm like, and I was like, I can fix this. I know how to fix this. I didn't open my mouth because I didn't dare to, because I was just like, you know what? It's a can of worms, and I don't need that. And I walked away from it.
Well, you don't need it. I mean, you don't need a lot of that. You don't work under hostility.
Yeah,
or the negativity.
Nobody
of things. Yeah.
Nobody works well under that,
But you broke the soul contracts.
That's good. That's good then.
You're like moving forward.
I had no idea I did that, but good.
You're moving forward. You're like, I'm out of here because I don't want to be.
What were you in your past life? Do you know what you were? Because I know you supposedly can tell kind of who I was, right?
Right. So when I was going through a past life regression, I was a young boy in the Egyptian kind of Jerusalem, whatever you want to call it, way. And I remember,
so we were neighbors.
I know. Back then we probably were. We would yell across the canyon. No. But I remember a lot of commotion going on, And I remember people walking, a lot of people walking in the streets and a lot of commotion. I remember seeing the dirt, which was a very brick colored dirt that puffed when you walked on it. And I remember going, oh my gosh, you know, I remember thinking, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. And the he was Jesus. And he's coming, he's coming. I just want to take a look at him, and I'm trying to, but all these tall men that were like I felt like I was getting lost.
If I was the follower, disciple, I was probably following right behind you. So we've been in circles.
And I was like, oh no, I'm missing an opportunity, and I was becoming, you know, the more I wasn't panicked, like I'm not going to see him. I was more like trying to push through the crowd so I could see him, get that opportunity. And then all of a sudden I felt like I was 4 men out instead of 1 man out. I was 4 men in the back. And the next thing I see is this hand with this white robish, or the linen robe kind of reach out and then touch my hand, and then everything parted, and there he stood. And you know, he told me that he was going to be there when I passed. And I said, I was in awe of his whole demeanor. And so years passed, and I remember laying on a cement bed kind of a thing, and I felt like it was like like adobes, that kind of inside the feeling. And I remember laying there, and I remember thinking, you know, because God said he was going to, I mean, Jesus said he was going to be there when I passed. And I remember being like 48, and I was like old, feeling oldish, and I was like, you know, I can't die because he said he was going to be there for me. He said he was going to be there for me. And then I just felt like I'm leaving my body, and I thought, oh no. And then I remember the hand. I remember touching the hand, and I remember him looking over me, you know, leaning down, and he said, I told you I would be here for you.
What does he look like? Does he look like
not like what we're painting, not the way,
because there's a young girl that paints him actually that
he's kind of not the way he looks there. He looks different. But he's not skinny and thin, he's more fuller, you know, he's got more he looks healthy. But he's got this kind of cool looking hair for him, and he's got the beard, not long beard, but it's just, this one was a little bit almost like he'd been to the barber kind of a thing, but he was here in representation of warmth and love. And I remember just sobbing, you know, and just being held in his arms. And I remember thinking, so you are real. You know, like when I was coming back out of that regression, I remember thinking, oh, you are real. And then we did a future one, and I was 12 when I died. And then and then I went further on, and I remember being in a classroom, and I'm sitting up on the wall with another person and looking down at you know, people, my ancestors, or my future children or grandchildren or whatever. And I remember looking at them in school, and they were learning stuff in the school. But I don't remember. I just know that I was not coming back at that point. So it was kind of an interesting thing. So I, you know, be interested in doing another past life regression kind of a thing to get back into that, you know, understanding what life is all about. But it's interesting when I feel people's past life, you know, the age, the fear, sometimes the contentment of you know, getting, and the irritation that this one client felt was really, really irritated because they had to go work on the farm, and they were,
that was their duty is to work on the farm. They didn't want to hear it.
I just want to stay in bed. I'm tired. And I remember, you know, I said, well, your mother's trying to get you up, and then all of a sudden your dad stands in the door, and you get up. You know, and there was no conversation. I remember going, and then your dad, and he goes, you know, I even fear my dad now. You know, when I was a kid, I remember being afraid of my dad, and I said, yeah, well, this is pretty. This, like, man, the head touched the top of the. It just filled out the whole door, you know, in a you know, muscular way, and he goes, yeah, I remember that. And I said, well, work through the fear in that other, you know, lifetime, and then you'll be all right, you know. You won't have that much fear, but it's kind of interesting. But yeah, and then you feel like as a woman, there's, you know, like you're working on the farm and you have children, and you just do your job because that's what's expected of you. You don't have a, I don't want to do this, or I do want to do
Yeah, you
this.
can't take a
There's
day off.
so
and
much going on, and it's never the same. And then you're looking forward to when the sun sets up, somebody's coming out of the woods and into your home, and everybody's settling in. It's your favorite time. And then, again, it starts all over the next day. There's no like, oh, you're making me do this kind of a thing. And I remember this woman going, that's the way I feel about my life with my family. I just want to be with my family, but I have to go out to work, and I feel very resentful that I'm being taken away from my peacefulness of my family. And I said, well, it's probably, and that's when I already told her about the thing.
Well, my son has a habit of not wanting to go to school. So I said, and he goes, it's boring. I go, you just have to change your viewpoint. You got to say, myself, I'm gonna make it through this day. I'm gonna do my best, and I get to hang out with my friends at the end of the day.
He needs to take like college classes.
Well, that's what Vincent's trying to push him to do. That's what
He's
pushing.
really, but he needs somebody that's interesting, not boring. Like,
Yeah, because the thing is that he ended up, they did those tests, and he was like in a 90%.
yeah, he's a very smart, and he's very hands-on learner. I mean, he's very creative in that hands-on learning. But he gets to the point where, like, he would be good at robotics or something along that line, like building something out of nothing and watching it work. Then he'd get, okay, next, what else were you doing?
That's what he did with Legos. Now he doesn't do Legos anymore because he got so proficient at building them.
There's no challenge in that. He could work at a place and revamp the whole place, and he would completely understand it. And the person that would have to follow him, and not many people want to follow people.
Yeah,
they want to be the boss.
He's a little bit like me.
Oh, me this to you.
Well, he gets me, and like he respects and listens to what I say, because what I say is zingers, right? And his father,
yeah.
But with me, I say no, this or the highway kind of thing, and he'll actually do it, because it'll say, I'm very disappointed. I remember my girl saying, when you said that, Mom, our hearts would break. So when I say that, it means something,
Wow. But it's fun. It's a creative way of thinking. I don't know. I think there's a lot more to him than just one thing. He's a whole bucket full of stuff.
He's a nice kid, though, for the most part.
Yeah, he is. He is. He likes to not get into trouble, but he likes to like kind of stir the pot kind of stuff.
And, he likes to be a jokester. That's a little
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. I love your ring, by the way. It's really pretty.
Anyway, where were we going? Are we gonna?
I don't know.
I was talking about your past. Oh, so have you ever been in what was the favorite life that you had then?
The favorite what?
A past life of your own.
Oh. I don't know, because I've gone into, again, the Egyptian way as a child, and I remember not having family, which was pretty. I was like not heartbroken, but I was kind of like, where is everybody?
Were you on the street?
Yeah, I was living off. I came out of a building, and I'm kind of like trying to figure out where my food is. I go, where's my magic lamp? I just need something, but I don't know if I have one. I think, my favorite life, I think I'm living more of my life in this lifetime than I have in the past. I think I've always been living up to another expectation of life, and I can tell because like when my father, when growing up, my father used to say, you'll only be a secretary, which.
Oh, I don't like that because it's limited.
I know. And that was him, but that was his limitation of thought process too, and so, it's funny how we try to get respect from the person who doesn't respect you, or you try to get love from somebody who's not capable of loving you to the degree that you
are.
Out of
a rock.
Like filling. Yeah, like somebody's going to fill my cup, but I won't let them fill my cup, and that's what I.
Well, part of it, I think, is because of the way that they speak and it's negative, that you think they don't like you. So you strive to, because you want to be wanted, you want to be loved, you want to be, part of something. Well, like I guess they talk about, like with the source and stuff, where we are made to worship. And so
Yeah.
if there's not that from your father, who are you?
Or
And like you want,
acceptance. Yeah.
so you want that from your family members. You want to be a part of something. And so when it's not there, it's lonely.
Well, it was, and
Scary
I
a
can
little
say
bit.
that my experience in my childhood, there was a lot of loneliness, because again, I none of my siblings um, do what I do. At least I don't think. But
You
there's
mean to the
like I
spiritual
can't.
thing?
Yeah, I don't think of anything of anyone doing that. But again, it's it's hard when you're a medium and you can feel people's emotions towards you. It's very difficult to I don't know how to explain it, but you get this thing where you feel what they're feeling at that moment, and then you go, oh, but they're telling you that they love you, and
Oh,
everything's great.
I get that without being a medium. I
Yeah.
get that,
Then you go, there's something here. So I just, like I was very confused as a child as to what to do and where to be, and what is feelings like when you just don't understand the feelings. When somebody said to me, like my mother used to say, your father's going to be very angry when he gets home. Well, that meant there's some abuse going to be coming along the ride, right?
some
Or
reprimanding.
reprimanding,
You
yeah,
don't know if it's
some
gonna be
healthy
abuse.
reprimanding. Right? And I
Might
go,
be with a yardstick.
how about the belt?
Yeah. Oh my God, I got a lot of the belts.
Yeah. And so there was that kind of thing, and so how do you balance out the feeling of anger because your father feels as though he's not being listened to or heard, and then you're agreeing with everything he's saying, but he feels still that anger that he hasn't gotten
Because
rid
it's not
of.
all about you. It's about his day.
It's about his
and
day and his past
Right.
and
That's
all
why
of that.
I mean, I forgive my dad for
Mhm.
those things too, but because he married early. I mean, you
Yeah.
can, when you get the knowledge of
It's
all
true.
of things, you can sit there and also if you understand these contracts, that's a role that he's supposed to
And he played
play.
well.
And so if you just look at the light
Mhm.
and strip everything else away, he's on just a path like you are,
Yeah.
and
And
so
I say to him, now I say, you were only able to do what you were capable of doing at that time, because he didn't know. I mean, he knew, but he didn't know. Some of them. So there are some that come. There are some souls that do come in, and their main job, honestly, is to disrupt or dismantle, or to take apart. That's their job,
Mhm.
right? So sometimes if you get stuck in your life cycle, in this time frame, you will have somebody who will disassemble you, and then you will then go through your journey and try to pick up the pieces of whatever it is you think you need to save, right? So there are souls that will do that, and they do it well. And so when you cross over, you go, thank you very much for doing that for me. And, but when you're here in the human world, you go, it wasn't all good. So like you have your mother and your father, your father treats you this way, and your mother just says, do what your father says, because she's overwhelmed,
She could
there
be afraid of him too.
well, there are 9 kids in the family,
Oh,
right?
yours?
In my
Yeah.
family, there were 6 boys and three girls, and so there were a lot of dysfunction going on because they didn't know how to love in a healthy way.
Well, that's also what was taught from
That's
generation to
right.
generation,
Yeah.
and so, and depending on what station you're in too,
Hmm.
and that I didn't like too. They had those stations, and I was like,
I know.
that meant like you're boxed in here and you're not getting out.
Mm-mm.
That's why when you came to this, I'm like, oh, I come supposedly from Rhodes, but when we came over here, I got nothing. You put the slick
it is funny how we go, yeah, I can survive with nothing. And I remember saying to my ex-husband once, I said, you know I grew up poor. I said, I can be poor again. And he looked at me in horror, are you kidding me? And I said, can't you live without anything? And he goes, no, that's because he had, when he grew up, he had things. He never lived without. He never understood that concept. And I thought, how different we were, how different he and I were.
But that's good because suppose the opposites attract, and you help each other see things.
That's why he's divorced. Okay.
But I started a prepper group in order to do prepping. So in case you had to go something shit at the fan, people nowadays just do not know how to survive on their own. And I don't know that I could totally survive too, but I have at least enough knowledge because I did that prepper group. Like the one thing that I thought was the coolest thing was, and you might like this too, right? And I just saw it on a movie, something else too, is that when you got to boil your water here in Maine, though, we would be lucky unless we got contaminates into the there. So what you do is you dig a hole and then you bring the water to it, or if you do it if you have a riverbed, at least that would be better. But if you had to, you dig a hole and then you pour the water in there. And you have a fire going, and you put the stones in the fire, and then you throw it in the pool of water, and it will. So that's the simplest way in order to sterilize your water if you had to. And the Indians or whatever way back when, they used to take the stones and put it. If you had to lay on the cold earth, you put the stones underneath you to lay down to keep you warm.
Yeah, that's a bumpy mattress.
Yeah, but it keeps you warm. Well, you hopefully have something padding on it between you and the rock. Right? I mean, I hope I never have to do that, but I do from time to time, just like, and I still forget though. But how to make a simple bread? Like it's the flour, water, salt.
Sugar.
No, you don't even need sugar.
You need yeast.
No, you don't, to make a flatbread.
Oh, a flatbread. Okay.
But then you guys think, how am I going to get flour? What am I going to carry a bunch of flour around? No, we have no wheat. We have no. What are you going to do then? So I can't make bread. Well, what do? You you can. In Maine, we're fortunate because we can scavenge around. But you got to know what plants you got to eat.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to teach these things, and I didn't get that far into it because life. But it's still thinking about it. God, the Indians knew how to live off the land. We don't anymore. Then you can set simple traps to create for like little creatures, but all right, well, how are you going to bring down big game? Are you going to do that, or are you going to just live off of berries? What are you going to do in the wintertime? Anyway, so I always thought of that, and I'm like, because it's just like driving down the road, evacuation route. I'm seeing that sign going, sure, it's fair. I don't even know how to get out of freaking, what route do we take? You ever see those signs? They say evacuate, but it's like, where's the other sign after that sign?
I know it's like it's like hiking. Where are the markers?
So I thought about that. I'm like, okay, because they say if the Canary Islands or somewhere around there, they go down, right? Like it will send a tsunami our way.
Okay.
We would get hit within hours of that going because it's a part of the land or something that could collapse, whatever, or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's imminent. It could happen at any time.
Wow.
So nobody here seems to understand, like, you need to be prepared. I got a bug out bag. I don't know if you have a bug out bag enough to survive with, to make a fire or whatever, or to be warm. We have to head to the mountains. If that tsunami is coming, you don't have long, and the closest mountain's an hour or two away.
That's right.
So you have to get above sea level and above that because of the tsunami's coming. And they could happen.
Great? Isn't that amazing? Like that's our thought process nowadays.
Right.
Like everything's a possibility.
Well, it always has been,
but we never thought about it.
But people did prepare. They always were in prepare mode because famine was around the corner all the time. So people knew what to do. We have had luxury. We don't know how to operate that way. And I'm still ill-advised. I mean, I don't know totally everything either. And I'm like, but I know enough that if in desperate measures, you can take the pine tree and take the pine needles and put it in water and make a tea to help you. Or there's wild lettuce out there and you eat the wild lettuce. So there's things that I know, but people are screwed. And that the one, they say in so many days there will be riots and people will kill themselves. But if you have a tsunami coming here, they were all wiped out. So you have to get out of town. Like, and then if you have a solar flare and or an EMP, all the vehicles are dead. They can't move. You're on foot now. You got to get out of here because people are going to be killing each other because you can't get a truck in here to bring food. So it's a matter of days. You need to get away from so many people. Right. So you can head to the mountains again.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're going to do that. Steal someone's damn horse.
Bicycle.
But you think about that. All vehicles are, and the sun throws off these solar flares. And at any time they can do it. And you, Russia, at any time Russia can do one and we're out. Russia has that ability. And so now there's China now.
And I think everybody's trying to protect themselves, so they're building a better gun. You know, I don't mean like people, but countries. They're so concerned about what's going on in the world, and they're like, well, we don't want to do without. But you know, why do you have to do without when you can survive on your own land? We have animals, we have places to grow vegetables. We could go down to Florida and grow vegetables, you know, certain vegetables.
China's buying up all our farmland.
I know.
And then we'll be subject to dealing with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people don't understand. What's
happening. And that's the crazy part, is that it's not being allowed. It's just that's happening so that they can gain control of things. Well, you know, I don't know what's. I mean, I do, and I don't know what's going to go happen in the future. But I'm not going to go into that aspect of like second guessing. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die.
But are you in belief of the ascending?
Yes.
So, I mean, according to Dolores Cannon and her daughter, they were just describing, I don't know if you watched any of those, that the earth is like, because it's different planes, there's going to be the good from the bad. It's going to separate. So we will probably never see, whoever raises their vibration to the highest level that they can, will not see those devastations. But this one will.
They will, because they have to see it to break out of that.
And some may never. Some may never. They might just die, and that's it. The end of their contract.
Well, and I think our own elevation of self, we don't have to be like everybody else. And I think there's a belief system that, again, what we were talking about way before, is that somebody wants somebody to believe in what they're talking about. You and I have had a conversation for I don't know how long, and neither of us have forced each other to believe in what the other's saying. We're just curious as to what the comments are going to be when we say something, because we never know what we're going to be saying anyway. But
well, I think if you're true to yourself too,
yeah.
And I mean, I if you're not doing anything in anger or even raising.
Sorry. Someone just came into my head and left immediately.
Wonder why.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, so sorry about that.
Like, oops, sorry bothering you.
It was a strong one. Anyway.
On your side or my side?
Angel.
For you or me?
It was an angel coming in when we were talking about
ascending.
Yeah. So
come back and join the party.
I was just like, I felt like I was having a mini stroke feeling to my head. I was like, that was bizarre.
Well, because I keep having my eyes, something's at me this whole time. I'm just letting you know. And I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't know. I'm oblivious to that stuff. I know something's there, but I don't know what.
Yeah, I feel. Yeah,
but I wonder what they have a feeling. I wonder what message they have.
I think with what all energy on the other side, for wherever they come from, is that they want us here to remember that we're here for a specific reason, and it's not about self-destruction, because if it is about self-destruction, then they will stop that process for sure. And whether it's a plague, whether it's explosions or earthquakes or volcanoes or things coming in, those will be stopped, because what we're doing here, talking about openly, and hopefully at some point having people ask questions about things, but bringing to light what's the most important about human nature or humans themselves. We're very unique individuals, and our acknowledgement of that and saying we do have the right, we know what our strengths are. We do have the right to speak our strengths, but we don't have the right to take another man's life.
Right.
You know, we have the right to flourish and to bring others into our world that are like-minded if we choose to, and also bring others that are not, and let them experience it and let them make their choices. But we don't have the ability to force, which is what's happening now. So
That's what I
it's
don't like
taking
about
and
this LBGQ and all these other things that happen. You're trying to force us to be like you, and if putting it in our face, all these trans in our schools and stuff. I don't mind, that's your way of life,
Mhm.
but don't force me to have my way of life that way. I should have the right, my children should have the right to go to a place that doesn't have that. If we don't believe, I don't, not that I don't believe it, but I don't want it for my life.
Mhm.
You are accepting to do yours, but go make a school for yours.
Well, I think too, and I think too is what, when we enter this soul contract, when we write our soul contract, we make a decision based upon what we want to be when we're born. That's what we do. Is we do it. And some souls say, "Oh, I've changed my mind. I don't want to be a woman. I want to be a man." Or some will say, "No, I'm going to change to." So what they do is that they sometimes they end the vessel, the life of the vessel, and then they are reborn back into the vessel that they choose differently. So the concept of changing one's life to something completely different, it doesn't change the soul's desire to understand both. Again, when I'm doing a reading, a lot of times they don't come through as male or female. So I understand, the I'm not sure what I want to be when I grow up kind of aspect of it, and I get it 100%. But I agree. I don't want to force my being a female onto somebody else. But we've had too many people dictating our what we need to be and what we are choosing to be. You can't be this and you can't be that. I think if I decide I want to be something, then I should be the something, but I shouldn't force it onto you to say this is what no, I don't think that that's right. I think if I want to be a monkey today and a cat tomorrow, or a girl today and a boy tomorrow, that's my right to do it. And that's okay, because I'm not affecting anybody else. But when I
But I
become,
don't want to pay
that's right.
for you to do that, because then you find out you're wrong, and then you blame it all on us anyway.
Well,
So
and
like, but
that's my choice to wear specific clothes. It's my buying habit that does that. I'm not expecting you to buy my clothes.
right.
So I'm not expecting you to pay for my thing for who I am, choose to be. I
But
shouldn't
they are
expect that.
making that that you should
And
be
I
pushing
don't
that.
I don't I don't know if I don't know enough about that to make that. I just know on a spiritual level, what you're born into is what you chose to be.
Right.
And some of us,
There's no mistake there. You came through
right,
the way you were supposed to be.
some of us have been male in many other lifetimes, like let's say for the past 6 or 7. So we get the role, we understand the role of the male, but this time we decided I'm going to be female. So we born into the female thing, we come out as a female, and we go, as we're starting to go through the hormonal changes, which none of us women like that hormonal change, we decide, oh, we don't like this, and that we do identify more as male because we're used to that in past
That's what
lives.
Dolores Cannon said, that you're
Yeah.
supposed to go boy, girl,
None of
female.
us don't.
And she goes, and if you come back too many times, that's how come you come gay.
Well, that's
So
you identify as a male. Like I know a lot of. I'm a very, if you're going to challenge me, I'm very you know, you're going to challenge me. So it's more of the male aspect of that personality. So I know that I've been born many times into the male aspect of things, but decided to be female on this part. Am I highly independent? Yes. Can I survive on my own? Yes, I can survive on my